Welcome, everyone. You've heard the selective reading. You have felt the power of prayer as we have evoked to this particular service. The way of meditation service. Meditation is not passive, nor is it aggressive. Meditation is a divine receptivity to ultimate reality. The capital R reality about life, love and beauty, intelligence, the presence of God, and the ultimate reality about who we are as luminous spiritual beings that never had a beginning and will never end. That is a belief system for many people, but for those individuals that practice the art and the science of meditation, they become the candidate for the realization of that truth. So they no longer have to live through a belief system at all. They live through a direct knowing of what is said is true. Many people believe that there's a place called China. They've never been there. Many people absolutely, I often teach that belief is a operational placeholder for knowing. It is a substitute for real knowing. So the practice of meditation, the practice of the art of real prayer, takes you beyond believing, so you have your own direct realization, and you don't have to believe anyone about anything. You take your mind back, you take your power back, and you have a direct revelation. Your life is the unfoldment of your personal revelation of the presence of God or the experience of beliefs that you may have inherited. And so you are here to have a direct and personal revelation of that which is true, so that your life is not an up and down experience of the contagion of thought forms that move through the milieu of the human dynamic. That is, I would almost say, a wasted incarnation, but many people like experience, even though experience may not take them in a particular direction or the unfoldment of their destiny. But if you're tuning in to this spiritual community, you are aware that there's a destiny within you, planted before time began, about your real nature, sourced from the presence of God itself. And if you've tuned in to this particular live stream, somewhere within you, there's a longing for a greater awareness, for the unleashing of that destiny, so you're not buffeted around by human experience, going up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down, emotionally, becoming addicted to anxiety and anxiousness, fear and doubt and worry as your normal baseline. No. You have begun a practice or are beginning a practice so that with every personal revelation of the presence, with every realization of your oneness with the presence, your baseline of joy and of harmony, your baseline of peace gets higher and higher, and you discover with that baseline of joy and harmony and peace rising, the world can't take it away. The world can't steal it, because the world didn't give it to you. It has come from a direct revelation of your true nature and true being. What is the benefit of that? Human beings are at their best when they have not only done the deep introspective work, they're at their best when they are a part of the world weaving, building a kind and just global society from the revelation. And that happens in two ways. It happens as your baseline rises, you begin to realize that you are a field of consciousness. Everyone has a field that affects everyone. You can step into certain people's field and immediately you feel greed, or you feel racism, or you feel fear. You can step into somebody else's field and you'll feel a dynamic of love and compassion and joy and generosity. Everyone carries a field. And as you allow your baseline of peace and love and joy to rise, the field that you generate affects every environment that you go into, and it affects the world as we know it. So when individuals come together, they create a field that is non-local, that affects the environment that they're in, which is why violence goes down when individuals come together to meditate. It affects the whole field, and that when that field gets stronger and stronger and stronger, in awakening, insights, revelations occur. Now, where does that lead to? It leads to action. That when the field becomes strong enough, there is introspection, there's right thinking. What does right thinking mean? Very quickly, right thinking is not the regurgitation of the thought forms you have every single day. That's called mentation. Real thinking is inspiration. Real thinking is when the presence of God and its broadcast of love and beauty, intelligence, and all of the wonderful qualities and the very essence of God flow through you. That's thinking. Everything else may be intellectual gobbledygook, and then after real thinking, then there becomes real right action. And so as we create a field, then we're called into action. The fields that have been generated over the years through mass meditations and things of that particular nature are a part of the collective awakening that we're now experiencing, in which George Floyd is a lightning rod of that. George Floyd's personal human history has nothing to do with that. The individual police officers that abused him in broad daylight, public lynching, all of that created a firestorm for a global awakening that we see around the world, where people are saying in substance, we are not going to have this any longer, not only in America, but around the world. So action is taking place. So the generation of a field of awakening that's been going on for years, 30 or 40 years, as people become more adept in affirmative prayer, more adept in meditation, has assisted in that field, and then combined with a seeing and the fatigue of things being the same for so long for black and brown people, created a moment of awakening that now is leading to action. Perhaps police reform, perhaps the elimination of the chokehold, perhaps proper justicing, perhaps so much and more, because there's so much in the underbelly that's being revealed in this apocryphal moment in which things that were hidden are now being seen. So when you sit and you have a moment of revelation, that revelation is not just for you. You are intricately connected to all of humanity. So as you are lifted up, your field is lifting individuals up. Real thinking and then real action. So don't think for a moment that when you're practicing the art and the science of meditation, that you're becoming a passive, non-involved individual. It's quite the opposite. With every personal revelation, you realize that there's history in the making, and you're not to be a bystander of history. You're to be a history maker, particularly if you've incarnated at this time in human history. You knew what was going down. You knew we would have an evolutionary trigger in the office, 45, number 9, completion, that would raise the veil and say, this is what we need to clean up. And I'm going to be an example of it for you all. I'm going to be an example of narcissism and greed and divisiveness. I'm going to be an example of racism, so that we can no longer hide it. Now we can deal with it. So somewhere in your soul, you knew this before you got here. So as you practice the art and science of meditation, you're continuing to have a personal revelation of the presence, that up-levels your baseline of intelligence and joy and beauty. You become a field, not just a belief system. We don't want any more believers, please. You can become a fundamentalist if you become a believer, a fundamentalist Christian, fundamentalist Muslim. We don't want that. We want awakened awareness. And just a side note, there's no such thing as a Jewish mystic or a Christian mystic or a Muslim mystic. Once you're a mystic, you transcend the labels. That's an aside, but needs to be said from time to time. And so so the field affects the environment, creates awakening for right action to take place. So take your meditation time reverentially. Two main qualities for growth: earnestness and sincerity. Those are the greatest techniques in meditation. There are millions of ways to meditate, and mantra meditation and insight meditation. There's so many techniques, but the two greatest techniques, sincerity and earnestness. Why you are sitting, and the earnestness to do it even when you don't feel like it. Great things happen. There's so much here to unload and unpack, but we've got to sit. I invite you to take a seat where you are. Acknowledge the individuals that are in your living room with you, that you're going to take a journey into your soul, a journey into your deep spirit. Your sincerity is that you're sitting to have a realization of your oneness with all of life. You're not merely going for the byproduct of blood pressure regulation. You're not merely going for the byproduct of expansion of the immune system or the stabilization of such. You're not merely going for the byproduct of the allowing yourself to be more oxygenated, slowing down the aging process, healing psychic wounds, very important. You're going to have a realization of your oneness with the presence of life. You're sincere about waking up, and all these other things are added. So we embrace our sincere intentionality. I want to wake up from my intoxicated sleepwalking that I think and believe that I'm separate from God, that we're separate from each other. That's my intention when I sit. To have a realization of my oneness with life, which includes dynamic peace, infinite joy, divine intelligence, and more. A love that is beyond what we can even imagine. We're aware that our attention is embracing our intention, and it has a simultaneous awareness that the body is breathing. The breathing is happening presently. This is not future breathing. This is not breathing in the past. It's happening presently. Keeping us present. We're available to the wellspring of intelligence flowing through the eternal broadcast of the mind of the infinite. So the capacity to listen is increasing with every breath, to hear with that which created the ears, consciousness. a reverential alertness. We sit, we listen. Oh, we are always reminded that this is our very first time we have sat. It's new. Our childlike nature is activated. The beginner's mind is activated. And here we sit. Here we sit. If the mind takes off and runs in different directions and gets caught up in mentation and thought forms and fantasies and future projections and inner conversations, that's okay. You notice it, come back and begin again. And then you'll notice that what's noticing is you, not the stuff passing through you. deep and an abiding well of stillness that we're in. We're gaining more and more dominion over our attention. And we're right here presently, available to a greater insight, a greater revelation, a deep realization of our oneness with the presence that's never an absence. Be still and know that I am. I am. I am God in the midst of you. mindful of your attention, your sincere intention to have a greater realization of your oneness with the presence that's never an absence, the very source of your life. Because your life is an emanation of the source. You're moving yourself into the position to know this and not merely believe it. And so we take a deep inhalation and release. Again, deep inhalation and release. Once again, deep inhalation. Sustain it at its apex. Just release. With a smile on your face, you hear the field moving through the Word of God, that field of divine intelligence and infinite peace, pure joy, well-being, dynamic good, moving through, and as this very word that is being spoken for each of us, that represents the one of us. That we may now enter into a clean space of divine gratitude and thanksgiving and dynamic appreciation. That we give ourselves permission to rise up in the field of gratitude and the dynamic field of thanksgiving and the appreciation of life itself. Every life is precious. Our life is precious. We rise up in this awareness and we begin to give ourselves permission to see. Not merely with the physical eyes, but to see with consciousness. come into a recognition that life is everywhere. God is everywhere. Peace is everywhere, except we're being suppressed by a limited perception, but not here and not now. We see God and feel such a deep, resonant oneness with the presence that we can boldly proclaim, my life is the life of God. All that I am is the presence of God. Oneness, that's unity. And from the consciousness of oneness, the word is spoken that we may be free today, liberated from limited perception, false narratives about ourselves and about others, false narratives about a God that is distant and mercurial. We may be free today to have a full awareness that dynamic life is for us and there's nothing against us. That the body temple can mend itself. The mental body can clean itself up right now. The emotional body can purify itself. When we sit and have an awareness of our oneness with the presence and the power and the love of God, I speak this word for us, that something wonderful is happening. Something wonderful is happening all around this planet. Stagnant energy is being set free. And lo and behold, the visionaries are describing the possible. The strategists are creating the architecture for it. The implementers are walking in that direction. And the energy of anger and rage is being transmuted into right action. Something wonderful is happening. And so we give thanks for our very life. And we eliminate all identity called bystander and embrace participant. We are participants in the unfolding of a cosmic idea of living biology, human beings, revealing the face of divinity. Now, we give thanks for this. Anyone that we're holding in prayer for mending, for healing of the body temple, the mental body, the emotional body, the financial body. We see them in our mind's eye, even if it's our own self. And we accept all needs met right now. We feel it in our bones. Divine healing right now. Divine wholeness. Divine wellness. Divine well-being. The name and the nature of the Christ presence that indwells us all, called by whatever name you want to call it, the highest potential in every being. We allow it to be so. And so it is. Amen. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Way of Meditation service this morning. We invite you to turn in to our 8:30 or 11 o'clock service with the message that goes along with it. You've made a difference by stopping and sitting and joining thousands of people, hundreds of thousands now, around the world, creating a field that is impacting the globe and all of humanity. Thank you for joining.